Hey, hello again. Well, I'm back at Rosario Head. I want to do another little painting. It's morning this time. Here's the scene I want to paint. I love these rocks. All kinds of shades of browns and oranges. Warm and cool colors. And this calm pool of seawater surrounding it. So what I'm thinking is long in width, short in height panel. And try to capture that string of rock. Maybe a little bit of the rock down here at the bottom. And I'll place the horizon line up here very high on the panel. I may edit out this little island out here. I'm not sure it adds anything. I may just kind of zoom in. Something like this. So I'm going to get set up. I'm going to go with a little larger panel this time. Quick rundown on the palette. I've got a few colors left over here from yesterday. I was painting a madrone tree. This same area. I'll use these colors today if I can in the mixes. I try to be thoughtful and use up the oil paints that I squeeze out, but I'm not too worried about throwing some away. It's just part of being a painter. Same thing with paper towels. I try not to waste them, but then again, I don't hesitate to use them when I need them. I've got ivory black, cold gray, titanium white. I've got a little bit of lead white here as well. I've been playing with lead white. I like the ropiness, that it has a much different texture than titanium white, and it's more translucent than titanium white. It dries a little faster than titanium white also. Cerulean blue, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, sap green, burnt umber, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cad red, cad yellow, Windsor lemon, gamelin radiant lemon, yellow ochre. I've got Gamsol here. It's kind of still, it's not much of a breeze, and it's kind of warm, so I'm not using turpentine. I'll just use Gamsol. And I've got some of that Neo McGilpin here. I'll add a little Gamsol to this cup so I can close this up and not risk dumping it if someone bumps my easel, or if I bump my easel. This is Pissarro oil primed linen panel. Really inexpensive. I think I got it from Blick or Jerry's Artorama. I can't remember. I've had them for a while. Not quite as nice a linen as like the Centurion, but it's so affordable for a larger linen, oil primed linen, that I've been playing with them, trying them out. One thing I don't like about them is they're a little bit floppy. They don't have the stiff backing like the Gorilla Painter or a Centurion panel, or the birch panels I like to use. I'm going to start out today with a quick sketch of the composition, just get that in place, and then I'll go into the Gamsol wash. Alright, there's the sketch in. You can see I thought a little bit about taking this chunk of rock up and cutting into the horizon line, overlapping, but it's not actually what I'm seeing here. I just don't want this to touch this line. I don't want there to be a tangency there. So I kept this below this line, same with this one. We'll see how that works. I can always adjust it later. This is a brilliant orange lichen covered or moss covered rock here, so I'm looking forward to seeing that stand out against the pale blue of the water. Alright, so now I'll move into the turpentine or the Gamsol wash. Go with a little bit of alizarin and ultramarine blue for the sky. I exaggerated these distant hills a little bit. made them just a little bit bigger than what they are here in reality. I may cut them back down a little as I paint the full colors. Same colors for this water, but richer, more pigment. You can see this panel is a little floppy. It's wanting to flop around on me a little bit. Same colors for the distant hills, just a little more diluted. Mostly, actually I'm going to go with a little bit of cerulean blue for the distant water. It still has a little bit of the ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson in there, which is fine. Normally I don't like to use cool colors in this initial wash, but there's so much blue in the scene that I want to try it. And put a mix of burnt umber, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine blue here in the foreground. I liked earlier when most of this foreground was in shadow. Mostly burnt sienna for these rocks in the middle. Maybe a little bit of cad yellow as well. And it's perfectly fine if this drips down into the water. In fact, I think it will make it more interesting. Set up an abstract pattern that I can play with. Here's the rough wash in. This Pissarro oil primed linen is really grabbing the color. It doesn't want to move around a whole lot. So I'm just going to move on and let that dry just a little bit. It'll dry pretty quick with the sun on it. I'm going to start to mix up my colors. I'm going to mix up as few colors as I can to capture the scene. A light and a dark maybe for each object. Each big object, like a light and a dark for this background hill. One light for the sky, which can also serve as the background watercolor, and darker, richer blue water up close. It's so tempting to mix more colors because when you look into the water, you see there's lots of rocks under the surface, which are all different shades and shapes. But I don't have to mix colors for all those different shapes and objects. I can just hint at them by shifting what other colors that I mix. I'll need this brilliant orange. There's also a very high value tan. There's a dark brown of the rock. There's the shadow color of the rock. And that, maybe a green as well. There's some moss covered wet rock jutting out of the water in places, and at the bottom of the rock I'll mix that color as well. And then I'll just bend it a little bit by dipping into other colors that I mix, or by dipping into full chroma color straight out of the tube. Got some colors mixed up here. Got deep, almost electric ultramarine blue It's got titanium white, just a touch of alizarin crimson, and cerulean blue for the water that's closest. When I first arrived here, it was just such a deep and vibrant blue. It really drew me to the scene. Then I've got a little lighter mid-tone blue for the ocean as it recedes away. Then a sky blue, darker sky blue for the top of the sky. A little more yellow and white added to that blue for the far water and for the sky as it comes closer to the horizon. I've got a couple grayed out blue and lavender for that distant headland. I've got that vibrant orange for the lichen or moss on the rock. I also have it more gray, orange, tan. And I can bend that one a little lighter and yellower just by adding straight white and straight yellow. I've got the shadow colors, blue, brown, red. Those aren't pure black. Those aren't the darkest darks I could mix. I want to stay one step or half a step above the dark. That's the shadow color. I've got, this is actually sun on the rock where it's blue, brown, and green. This is that mossy or kelp or algae covered rock coming out of the water. Those seem pretty dark. I may want to tilt those a little bit lighter as I paint. We'll see how it looks on the panel. And that's it. These are just leftover colors. I may dip into them a little bit just to tilt things. I can use these gray lavenders and gray greens to tilt things. Start with this large flat rosemary evergreen and paint the lightest value of the sky first. Make sure it's clean. I can use this squeegee to get a little sharper edge for the horizon. Apologize, the panel is in partial light and partial shade. I'm not sure how that's going to come out on the video, but it's kind of a relief that the sun was beating down on the back of my neck. It's getting hot. I'll go just half a step darker for the ocean right below the distant sky. It's amazing what your eye can pick up, these subtle shifts. Leaving just a little bit of the underpainting showing to hint at distant land. Here as I paint this, I'm correcting the drawing. This is really the center of interest, so I want to make sure I get this drawing correct. And I want a little more intense blue to go against that beautiful orange. this to go a little bit further down, a little deeper. That Gamsol wash is set up nicely, so it's not picking up it's picking up a little bit, but that's okay. I'm actually noticing there's some kelp back in here. So it's actually helping me suggest that by getting a little bit muddy orange in there. Tide's coming in as well, so that the shapes are changing a little bit. The waves as they're coming in are mostly sweeping kind of like this. And then as they come in this little inlet, they're continuing that but a little bit steeper. And they actually have a little bit of a cross ripple pattern going that I want to try to suggest very loosely. I'm going to continue to paint the water while I have mostly this blue in my brush. That'll keep the water nice and clean and give a consistency to the water as a whole thing. There's a big shape in the painting. I'm just using these colors to create a smooth gradient. Alright, there's the water in. I'm going to step back and take a look at it, make sure it makes sense as one big shape. I like the idea of keeping the no tan coming in a dark foreground, and then the base of this little island or crop of rock surrounded by water out there. I like the idea of that making one kind of horseshoe no tan, and then the distant subtle dark line of the horizon way off in the distance. So I just want to step back, take a look at it, take a look at the scene, make sure it's still making sense. Then I'll move on to painting the distant headland. I think that's still Washington State up there where it's curving back into the Strait of Juan de Fuca. After that I'll paint this middle ground rock and then the foreground rock finally. I'm going to try this old beat up bristle brush, cheap brush from many years ago. Just see how it does with laying in these lights. I'm going to go in with an evergreen brush, a little stiffer, smoother brush, and paint the shadows now. See how this shadow looks against the light of the rock. That's mostly it. I'll just take this soft badger hair brush and gently sweep over some areas of the water just to give the illusion that it's a flat surface. Nice soft edges everywhere. I can go down a little bit too to knock down some of the edges that are catching glare. Not too much. I don't want to overblend, but the reflection is very soft. Just reestablishing a few of the darks now, pumping up the intensity of the chroma in a couple spots to help lead the eye around. Here's where it ended up. Yeah, pretty happy with how it came out. Challenging just because of the bright sunlight and feeling like the back of my neck was getting burned. But it was a lot of fun, beautiful place to spend a hot summer day. The Pissarro old primed linen panel worked okay. I feel like it grabbed the paint pretty well, and I like the texture. It's a little floppy. I had to hold on to the edge of the panel here and there so it wasn't flopping around, but other than that, pretty nice, pretty good for practice. Well, let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, thanks so much for watching. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe, share them with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll do a little bit of touch up and put it out on my website. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit my website. I sell these little plein air pieces at a reasonable price because I consider them practice. It really makes me happy when someone likes my art enough that they want to hang it in their home. You can also sign up for my newsletter and stay up to date on my new work and shows and get a discount on original art and prints.